Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. I'll start with a very important quote from Governor Phil Murphy, the Democrat in New Jersey. He's yelling at those who protest against the vaccine. And he said, I quote, "You've lost your minds. You are the ultimate knuckleheads. People are losing their life. Look in the mirror." Folks, this is a very important clip. Let's watch this, and I want you to tell me what you think in the comment section below. Let's roll the tape and hear from Governor Phil Murphy, the Democrat in New Jersey, essentially yelling at protesters of the vaccine. And I'll dig into some really important information from a Republican governor from Arkansas and the hidden truth behind the $1 trillion infrastructure package. Let's roll the tape and look at Governor Phil Murphy, the Democrat from New Jersey, yelling at protesters of the vaccine. Let's watch.
Please get vaccinated. Period. These folks back there have lost their mind. You've lost your minds. You are the ultimate knuckleheads, and because of what you are saying and standing for, people are losing their life. People are losing their life, and you have to know that. Look in the mirror. Look in the mirror.
And folks, speaking of the vaccine, the Arkansas Republican governor says he regrets the ban on mask mandates as cases surge. Here's a headline of an article on your screen from CNN. He said he regrets approving a statewide ban on face mask mandates. This is the Arkansas Republican governor, Asa Hutchinson. And he said, I quote, "In hindsight, I wish that had not become law, but it is the law. And the only chance we have is either to amend it or for the courts to say that it has an unconstitutional foundation." Folks, this is the Republican governor from Arkansas basically saying, hey, we messed up big time. Pretty incredible, folks. I just want our viewers and subscribers to know that I've made my position on vaccination clear on this channel. And you can check out the comment section. You can check out the community section and you'll understand my position. Now, let's shift gears to the $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure plan. Here's a headline of an article on your screen from the New York Times. The $1 trillion infrastructure bill pours money into long delayed needs. But folks, there is a hidden truth behind the $1 trillion infrastructure package. Let's explore the hidden truth. Let's start with the first headline from the New York Times. For climate, a substantial investment that falls short of the administration's goals. The administration wanted much more money than has actually been allocated. This legislation includes $73 billion to modernize the nation's electric grid, which energy analysts say would lay the groundwork for pivoting the nation away from fossil fuels. But it contains only a small amount of the money that President Biden had actually proposed. There is also $7.5 billion for clean buses and ferries, but that is not nearly enough to electrify about 50,000 transit buses within 5 years, as President Biden wanted to do. The bill would also provide $15 billion for removing lead service lines across the nation, compared with the $45 billion President Biden had called for, and the $60 billion water sector leaders say is necessary to get the job done. Now, here's a big problem, folks. You ready? Senators want pet projects and crucial funding for their favored priorities. Now, for the quartet of senators who represent many federal workers who use the Washington Metro, I'm talking about Senators Tim Kaine and Mark Warner of Virginia, and Benjamin L. Cardin and Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, all these Democrats, there was an annual reauthorization of $150 million for the transit system over a decade. This legislation would also authorize funding to reconstruct a highway in Alaska, the home state of Senator Lisa Murkowski, who's a Republican negotiator. Now, special funds are set aside for the Appalachian Regional Commission, which is a federal economic development body whose co-chairwoman is, guess who? Gail Manchin, the wife of the conservative Democrat from West Virginia, Joe Manchin, who is one of the principal authors of this bipartisan reconciliation package. And he's a crucial vote for the Democrats, because without his vote in the Senate, President Biden cannot get a single thing done. Now, Manchin was also able to secure funds to clean up abandoned mine lands in his state. Pretty interesting. The legislation would also set aside funds for individual projects across the country, including $1 billion for the restoration of the Great Lakes, $24 million for the San Francisco Bay, $106 million for the Long Island Sound, and $238 million for the Chesapeake Bay. It also includes $66 billion in new funding for rail to address Amtrak's maintenance backlog, along with upgrading the high traffic Northeast corridor from Washington to Boston. For President Biden, who, by the way, loves Amtrak, we all know this, he took an estimated 8,000 round trips on the line, and this is a step towards fulfilling his promise to inject billions of dollars into rail. Now, there are also other hidden truths in this infrastructure package. Unspent pandemic funds and tougher scrutiny of cryptocurrency will actually help pay for the plan. Now, to pay for this legislation, lawmakers have turned partially to $200 billion in unused money from previous pandemic relief programs that were enacted in 2020. This actually includes, believe it or not, $53 billion in unemployment benefits that were not spent because 26 states, majority of them Republicans, opted out of the unemployment benefits program prematurely prior to the official end of September 6th, which was a direct result of the law, the American Rescue Plan. So $53 billion was saved, and this can be repurposed since the economy recovered a little faster than a lot of people projected. Now, I believe that the $300 a week should have continued because it would have helped those who need it the most. But guess what? We're now in a situation where this $300 a week that was cut resulted in $53 billion that is now going to be injected back into the economy. Now, here's another important factor. There are new resources for underserved communities, but much, much fewer than what the president wanted. The president had called for $20 billion for projects designed to help reconnect black neighborhoods and communities of color. The legislation included just $1 billion, half of which is new federal funding over the next 5 years for this program. The legislation also creates a new $2 billion grant program to expand roads, bridges, and other surface transportation projects in rural areas. So there's a lot that's going on. And finally, folks, there's a major investment in expanding our digital capabilities and closing the digital divide. Now, there are many old-fashioned public work projects like roads, bridges, and highways, but senators did include $65 billion meant to connect hard-to-reach rural communities to high-speed internet and help sign up low-income city dwellers who cannot afford high-speed internet. Now, let's see how this works out, but President Biden had initially proposed $100 billion to try to bring that number down to zero. In other words, the number of people who don't have access to high-speed internet, which, by the way, happen to be people of color, members of rural communities, or other low-cost groups. But the president agreed to lower the price to strike a compromise with the Republicans. The Democrats also fought hard to get the inclusion of legislation to encourage states to develop comprehensive plans to ensure that high-speed internet is distributed equally among traditionally underserved communities and educate them about access to digital resources. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Please click the like button. Please click subscribe. Please enable notifications. These are the hidden truths behind the bipartisan infrastructure plan, things you're not going to hear on any other channel. You're not going to get proposals. You're not going to get false hope on our channel. You're going to get the truth, things that we should be aware of as responsible citizens, because this channel, the Ignition Time channel, is about the country, the economy, as well as our money. Let me also know what you thought of these really interesting and forceful comments from the governor of New Jersey, Phil Murphy. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. Please click the like button. Please click subscribe. Please enable notifications. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.